Good day, learners! Once again, I am Jeneline A. Incargas, a second-year college student taking up Bachelor of Elementary Education. For today's video, I am going to report about components of instructional planning under Unit 3, Instructional Planning. So, all teachers engage in planning, managing, delivering, and evaluating instructions. So now, let us define what is instructional planning. Instructional planning is defined as the systematic selection of educational goals and objectives and their design for use in the classroom. It is also defined as the ability to forecast and visualize the what, why, and how of teaching learning process. Another, instructional planning is also defined as visualizing. It is the ability to visualize the future classroom events. Next is guidance. It provides the type of roadmap or guide that assists in creating a flow of events that has a starting point and ending point. Another, guidance is also known as the integration of guidance practices in a school context based on a comprehensive and integrative view of educational practices. Next is managing. It is a way of managing time and events. So management in teaching is the linchpin that makes teaching and learning achievable in the teaching learning process. It is the teacher who plays the main role in planning, organizing procedures and resources, arranging the environment to maximize efficiency, monitoring students' progress, and anticipating potential problems. The last one is the decision making. So it allows one to make decisions about the hows and whats of teaching based on three primary conditions. First is the student's prior learning experiences. Second, the content derived from curriculum guides, textbooks, and teachers' developed materials. And third is the context and conditions in which the instructions will take place. So now let us proceed to the functions of planning. So the functions of planning are the following. So to give an overview of instruction, to facilitate good management of instruction, to make learning purposeful, to tie instructional events with community resources, to provide for sequencing and pacing, to economize time, to provide a variety of instructional activities, to make learners' success more measurable, which assist in reteaching, to create the opportunity for a higher level questioning, to assist in ordering supplies, to guide substitute teachers, to provide opportunities for an individual student or a group of students to benefit maximally from participation in selected learning activities, and second to the last is to link curriculum to teaching and learning, and last but not the least is to provide teachers an opportunity to rehearse mentally and on paper what will take place when they teach. Planning means making decisions about what information to present, how to present the information, and how to communicate realistic expectations to students. Planning instruction involves three steps. So first is deciding what to teach, second, deciding how to teach, and third is communicating realistic expectations. So each of these three steps for planning instructions includes specific tests. So first, let us talk about deciding what to teach. So deciding what to teach enables teachers to match instruction to each student's skill level. So the process of deciding what to teach includes the following tests. First is assessing student skills. In making decision about what to teach, educators have to assess their students' skill level. They have to identify which skills students have and which skills they do not have. Teachers assess students using tests, observations, and interviews. Second one is analyzing the instructional test. It is not enough to know what students are able to do. Teachers also must know exactly what it is they want students to do. Part of deciding what to teach is analyzing instructional tests. Task analysis consists of breaking down a complex task into its component parts. The third test in deciding what to teach is establishing a logical instructional sequence. Task analysis helps teachers plan a logical sequence of instructions. Students are more likely to learn if teachers present materials in a clear, logical sequence. So, when planning what to teach, teachers must understand the acquisition of new skills depends on the learning of lower level skills. Fourth is considering contextual variables. Contextual variables also play a part in deciding what to teach. Relevant contextual variables may include where instruction will take place, how long the lessons will be, and who will be in the room during instruction. Fifth is analyzing instructional groupings. In planning what to teach, effective teachers consider the instructional groupings that works best in their classrooms. Usually, teachers present material to students in groups, but sometimes they teach students individually. It is important to consider your students' performances, behaviors, and skills when they are in a particular instructional groupings, as well as the physical space and the ways in which students interact in it. And the last task in deciding what to teach is identifying gaps between actual and expected performance. In deciding what to teach, teachers must identify any gaps that exist between a student's actual level of performance and the expected level of performance. At this point, let us proceed to the second step in planning instruction, and this is the deciding how to teach. In making decisions about how to teach, teachers must make an educated guess about the kinds of approaches that will work. Then, try those approaches and monitor the results. In addition to making an educated guess and consulting the literature, four activities come into play when you are deciding how to teach. The first is setting instructional goals. The process of deciding how to teach begins with setting instructional goals for individual students, then establishing an instructional sequence. So most complex skills consist of combinations of simpler or lower level skills. These lower level skills must be taught in a logical sequence in order for students to acquire the complex skills. The second one is selecting instructional methods and materials. The next step in deciding how to teach is to choose appropriate methods and materials. This relatively easy task can become complicated when students have special needs. Students may require alternative methods, so for example, sign language or acceleration, or may need special instructional materials, for example, tape-recorded lessons, advanced reading materials, high-interest or low-level vocabulary reading books. Third is pacing instruction appropriately. Setting a pace is also part of the process of figuring out how to teach. Pace is how quickly or slowly the class moves through the material. So in addition to pace, teachers need to set a ratio of known to unknown material and set standard rates of success. Effective instruction includes about 75% known and 25% unknown materials. Students should be expected to demonstrate about 80% mastery with this combination. And fourth is monitoring performance and replanning instruction. Probably the most important part of deciding how to teach is monitoring students' performance and then using that information to plan subsequent instruction. Deciding what to teach is a form of diagnosis. Deciding how to teach is a prescription, a treatment. So if that treatment is not appropriate to individuals' needs, it can lead to educational problems. And the last step under planning instruction is communicating realistic expectations. The third component of instructional planning is setting realistic expectations for students and communicating those expectations to them. When teachers do not expect much from their students, they are shortchanging them. So the first task under communicating realistic expectations is the actively involving students in learning. Active learning requires students to participate in class, as opposed to sitting and listening quietly. Strategies include, but are not limited to, brief question and answer sessions, discussion integrated into the lecture, impromptu writing assignments, hands-on activities, and experiential learning events. Second is explicitly stating expectations. Teaching behavior expectations makes it clear to students what they need to do to be a successful student, reducing the time you spend away from instruction to correct behaviors. You can start teaching behavior expectations from the beginning of a school year. In addition, you may find that students benefit throughout the school year by reviewing the behavior expectations. The following strategy tools provide ideas for both. The third one is maintaining high standards. Student achievement is strongly affected by what the teacher expects of them, and this has been demonstrated by many educational researchers. So, how to set high expectations for students? So, first is convey confidence in your students. So, let students know that you believe in them and speak positively about students to other staff. If you know the test is particularly difficult, tell the students, but also let them know that you are sure they will do well if they work hard. So develop rapport with students through nonverbal signals such as smiling to give encouragement. Second is to give opportunities to contribute. When students are given a chance to voice their opinions and learning in a validating atmosphere, they learn better and achieve higher results. Third is give specific feedback. Individualized feedback, or not simply good job, has one of the highest effect sizes on students' achievement, according to many educational researchers, allowing students to use the feedback to improve. Fourth, provide high levels of support. For students to achieve their potential, they need positive relationship with caring adults, additional and varied teaching, varied modes of presentation, to be explicitly taught how to access assistance, and consistent specific feedback. The fifth one is use the Goldilocks principle. For a student to be motivated, they need to feel that the task is achievable, but not so easy that it doesn't challenge them. So it is about finding the ideal level of work that will stimulate the desire for learning without disheartening the student. This means providing tasks that are not too easy, not too hard, but just right. Now, let us proceed to the components of instructional planning. So first is the teacher's attitudes, beliefs, orientations, and teacher's social background. Teachers' beliefs, practices, and attitudes are important for understanding and improving educational processes. They are closely linked to teachers' strategies for coping with challenges in their daily professional life and to their general well-being. And they shape students' learning environment and influence students' motivation and achievement. The second component of instructional planning is the pupil's or student's age, background, knowledge, and motivational level of interest. Teachers have a lot to do with their students' motivational level. For instance, a student may arrive in class with a certain degree of motivation, but the teacher's behavior and teaching style, the structure of the course, the nature of the assignments, and informal interaction with students all have a large effect on student motivation. Another type of instructional planning is the type of content that influences the planning process, textbook, and other instructional materials. Teachers need high quality instructional materials in order to plan effective instruction. Instructional materials are resources teachers use to teach students, like a textbook series or curriculum guide. All teachers, whether they are aware of it or not, use instructional strategies. These are methods teachers use to design lessons and instruct students. So, when choosing instructional materials, teachers need to keep in mind if what quality of instructional materials they should use to define quality instruction. Next is the learning content, which is characterized by the subject matter guidelines. For educators, they see subject matter knowledge as knowledge in the discipline taught by a teacher. It often includes an understanding about how the discipline advances along with what is known within the discipline. There are certainly different ways in which teachers are constrained in their subject matter knowledge. For instance, science educators have long known that elementary science teachers often don't have an adequate science background. So these areas are certainly intertwined because as inquiries are made, there is an advancement of knowledge. Hence, teachers must have typically taken a limited number of subject matter. The second to the last component of instructional planning is the material resources, which include equipment or tool for teaching. Instructional materials are the content or information conveyed within a course. This includes the lectures, readings, textbooks, multimedia components, and other resources in a course. These materials can be used in both face-to-face and online classroom. However, some must be modified or redesigned to be effective for the online environment. The best instructional materials are aligned with all other elements in the course, including the learning objectives, assessments, and activities. Material resources such as equipment or tools for teaching is important as it provides the core information that students will experience, learn, and apply during a course. They hold the power to either engage or demotivate students. Therefore, such materials must be carefully planned, selected, organized, refined, and used in a course for the maximum effect. So the last component is time frame, which is considerable. This section specifies the hours, the classes or days over which the information will be taught, practiced, and assessed. The amount of time during which learners received instruction from a classroom teacher in school or virtual context. Instructional time does not include holidays or teacher professional development days when learners are not expected to be in school. Breaks during school day or time spent learning outside of school, for example, homework or tutoring. The planning of an instructional strategy is an important part of the instructional design process. It is at this point that the designer must be able to combine knowledge of learning and design theory with his experience of learners and objectives. Needless to say, creativity in lesson design will enhance this other knowledge and experience. Perhaps it is this component of creativity that separates the art of instructional design from the science of instructional design. It is clear that the best lesson designs will demonstrate knowledge about the learners, the task reflected in the objectives, and the effectiveness of teaching strategies. So, the purpose of instructional planning is to ensure that teachers are adequately prepared to meet the educational goals of all students, including utilizing various tools to design comprehensive lesson plans that meet the curriculum objectives of institutions of their communities. So that would be all for my report about components of instructional planning under Unit 3 Instructional Planning. Thank you so much for watching.